Welcome to the Hidden Wisdom Channel, United States. You're about to discover another hidden secret, an untold story. Episode 2, Napoleon Hill's billion-dollar fraud, how history's greatest con man created success.
Today, we delve into the story of Napoleon Hill, the man who gave the world the formula for wealth. But the untold story, the hidden wisdom that forged him, reveals what he was before the fame. A master of failure, haunted by accusations of fraud. And understanding how this farce became the foundation of his empire is the key to the true mindset behind success, a lesson more powerful than anything he ever wrote. The Gospel of Success, the manual that taught millions how to get rich, was in fact the testament of a master of failure. The book is Think and Grow Rich. The story he tells is an American legend. The tycoon Andrew Carnegie reveals the formula for wealth to a young Napoleon Hill, who then spends 20 years decoding the secrets of the world's most powerful men. It's a perfect story, powerful, and at its most crucial points, it's a farce. To find the hidden wisdom, we need to follow the clues Napoleon Hill spent his entire life trying to erase. The trail of failed businesses, the newspaper headlines that called him not a genius, but a charlatan. This is not the story of a master on a mountaintop. It's the anatomy of one of the greatest and most successful hoaxes in history. The question isn't whether he lied. The question is why his lie became more powerful than anyone else's truth, and what that reveals about our own desire to believe. To understand the fraud, we must understand the era, the early 20th century. America was a furnace of ambition, the age of the self-made man, and Napoleon Hill, born into the poverty of the Virginia mountains, yearned to be forged in that fire. His ambition was a sun, his track record a black hole. His pattern was a tragedy in 3 acts, repeated with painful precision. First, the brilliant launch. In 1908, he founded the Automobile College of Washington. In an era where the car was the future, he sold tickets to that future, promising training and even the cars themselves. Act 2, the collapse. The Chicago Daily Tribune published accusations that students paid for cars that never existed, for classes that never happened. Act 3, the disappearance. Hill fled town, leaving a trail of debts and shattered dreams. This pattern would repeat. A lumber business that went bankrupt. A candy store called the Betsy Ross Candy Shop that went bankrupt. The George Washington Institute of Advertising, another of his sham colleges, also collapsed amid allegations of fraud. Each venture was a new baptism, a new chance to become the man he believed him to be. And each one ended in a funeral of creditors and accusations. What he learned wasn't how to succeed, but that he needed a better story. His genius wasn't for business. His genius was for mythology. He understood a fundamental truth about the American dream. The appearance of success was a currency as valuable as the dollar itself. So, he dressed in luxury he couldn't afford and spoke with the authority of a man who had already made it. But how do you sustain that performance when reality is a dumpster fire? He needed a legend, a bulletproof one, and he found it in the name of Andrew Carnegie, the richest man in the world. the 20-year mentorship, the interview that changed his life. It was his masterpiece of fiction. Biographers and investigative historians like David Nassau, author of the definitive Carnegie biography, have found no evidence that this meeting even ever happened. Napoleon Hill didn't associate with success. He hijacked it. He took the most trusted name in America and turned it into his armor. While he preached about honesty, he was living a lie. While he taught about financial planning, he was dodging creditors. And then the outside world finally mirrored his inner chaos. The crash of 1929, the Great Depression, the house of cards collapsed. There was nowhere left to run. He retreated to a secluded cabin in the mountains. A general with no army, alone with the crushing weight of a lifetime of failures. What happens when the world's greatest dream seller runs out of anything to sell but his own nightmare? It is here, in the silence of absolute failure, that the alchemy happens. What does a man do when reality becomes a prison? Does he escape it? Or does he rewrite it? Hill did something only he could do. He looked into the abyss of his own fraud, and instead of backing away, he jumped in. He decided to build his empire on the ruins of his life. By the light of a kerosene lamp in that cold cabin, he wasn't just writing a book, he was waging a war on reality. He took every failure and relabeled it temporary defeat. Every escape became a search for opportunity, and his greatest lie, the Carnegie story, became the central truth, the cornerstone of a new gospel. Think and Grow Rich was not an act of memory. It was an act of desperate manifestation. It was a psychological spell he cast first upon himself. He was applying his own future principles before he had even codified them. He used auto-suggestion to create a new reality. He visualized his success with such fanatic intensity for so long that the story became his truth. And with that unshakable conviction, he sold it to a nation starving for hope. Amid the Great Depression, people didn't need unemployment statistics. They needed a miracle. They didn't need sympathy. They needed a plan. And Napoleon Hill, the master illusionist, gave them exactly that. He sold the idea that even if you can't control the economy, you can control your mind. And that promise of control in a world out of control was the perfect antidote to the poison of despair. And Hill's strategy didn't die with him. It has become the operating system of our time, the guru culture, the hustle mentality, personal branding, the carefully curated work of fiction that is an Instagram feed. All are direct descendants of Hill's gamble. Project the reality you desire with unshakable confidence until the world has no choice but to believe. He understood a fundamental truth about human nature. We don't respond to reality. We respond to the most compelling story about reality. But this brings us to the final question. If the architect was a fraud, is the cathedral a lie? Is the book useless? The answer is the secret within the secret. The hidden wisdom of Napoleon Hill isn't about dishonesty. It's about the mechanics of deceiving yourself into success. It's about forging a personal narrative with such absolute conviction that it becomes a physical force, a self-fulfilling prophecy. Hill showed us that confidence isn't just a result of success. It is often its cause. It is the seed. And the final paradox, The twist he couldn't have written better himself. The hoax worked. The book's staggering success finally made him the wealthy, influential man he had always pretended to be. The fraud wasn't an obstacle on his path to success. The fraud was the path. It was the application of his own philosophy in its purest, most dangerous form. So the untold story of Napoleon Hill doesn't invalidate his work. It decodes it. It leaves us with the most powerful wisdom of all. Reality is not a rock. It is clay, and the hands that shape it are our own.
Our episode 2 was incredible. Who could have imagined Napoleon Hill went through a lifetime of fraud and failure before building his empire? Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. That's how we keep bringing you new secrets every week.